This is the story of the evaluation of the humanitarian partnership between CNA Foundation, CNA and Save the Children in Brazil. As part of a global program, the aim of the project is to strengthen the resilience of communities in the city of Petrópolis in Rio de Janeiro state. The story starts with planting a seed, because implementing a humanitarian program is similar to the way in nature a seed germinates and grows in time to become a tall and strong tree, bearing fruit of its own, year after year after year. Just as the tree grows, so too does the knowledge, confidence and ability of the children and adults in disadvantaged communities, confidence to cope with disasters, be it a storm, a mudslide or a fire. A humanitarian program needs the firmest of roots, and the evaluation found this project in Petrópolis had three key strengths. Firstly, the Save the Children team on the ground were experienced and had a vast network of contacts working locally with disaster risk reduction. It meant the team could mobilise the right people and resources to start the project quickly and effectively. Secondly, they formed civil defence community groups and school committees, which have proven risk reduction methods. And thirdly, the team partnered with the local civil defence body, taking office and workshop space in their premises, leading to closer relationships with civil defence agents and cost savings. While some of the routes were strong, the evaluation found that some were weak. Firstly, the lack of a clear theory of change from CNA Foundation and CNA for their strengthening communities work meant the project in Petrópolis had no firm overarching strategy with which to align. Secondly, the original focus of the work, to help seamstresses from the 3,000 families displaced in the Freiburg City 2011 mudslide, was abandoned in favour of a more feasible project in Petrópolis. In doing so, the only connection of the project with the fashion industry was lost. Thirdly, the design phase did not consider the financial crisis in the Rio de Janeiro state government. Ignoring the limited capacity of the State Civil Defence School created a gap in the dissemination of the project's learning. As well as strong roots, a humanitarian program needs effective ways of working at its core. Like the trunk of a tree, the evaluation found the project had developed a positive "we are all in this together" culture. The team demonstrated respect for the beneficiaries of the project, listening to their needs and treating them as equals. A small example was the care they showed to the community groups who met in the evening. The groups were given quality food and drink, so they had the energy to contribute after a hard day's work. The team also demonstrated flexibility to integrate local partnerships like amateur radio groups, which enable quick communication during disasters. And they had an ongoing relationship with CNA Foundation in Brazil, which may seem obvious, but the evaluation found this was not necessarily always the case in other countries. Through this relationship, the team was able to identify opportunities to connect the project with CNA and CNA Foundation local work. For example, by bringing CNA volunteers to be judges of a fire drill in a school. Some ways of working, however, were weak. Firstly, the project was delayed because the contract with Save the Children's local partner was terminated and a new partner had to be found and brought up to speed. This meant a number of processes and procedures had to be agreed with and implemented before trust was established. Communication and collaboration is particularly challenging because the Save the Children project team and their local partner in Brazil are spread across 5 cities in 3 countries: Brazil, Panama and the USA. In addition, there is a lack of clarity on the information flows between global and local program and project groups in the 3 partner organizations, including comms and reporting on monitoring data. Like a young tree with strong enough roots and trunk, leaves start to grow, and true growth only comes with learning. The team learned quickly to respect each partner timing. For instance, at the start of the project a new mayor was elected, and the decision was made to wait until the new mayor took office, so that he did not trash the project for its association with the previous government. They've also realised that if they were to start the project again, they would build an inception phase into the project design. This would allow more time for refining the details and implementation plan, and avoid some of the project weaknesses. Even without such an inception phase, the team quickly learned they had to change engagement strategies with some community groups. In cases where meetings weren't quorate, they recruited young people to join. In cases where there was no place to meet, they have set-up arrangements with local schools that are open in the evenings and have spare rooms they could use. The evaluation found, nevertheless, that there were some basic learnings that the team had not yet grasped. Firstly, the fact that the project should be a pilot on urban resilience is not at the forefront of people's minds, with no structured learning process beyond the monthly monitoring and evaluation meetings. Lessons learned are not being captured methodically. Secondly, there is limited information exchange with the other 4 urban resilience pilots within the global humanitarian partnership between CNA Foundation, CNA and Save the Children. Finally, the name of the project was not helpful for learning either. Strengthening the resilience in the mountain region of Rio de Janeiro is too ambitious, as the project only covers 10 schools and 10 communities. It is also too difficult to understand. Resilience is a jargon word of development and environmentalists. And when a tree grows, there are inevitably fallen branches. In the case of the project, there are missed opportunities. The most important missed opportunity of all was to design a project without clear links to CNA staff, customers or supply chain. Even without a global theory of change, having such links at local level would have given some strategic alignment with the CNA business. In turn, this would likely lead to more collaboration with CNA and CNA Foundation on the ground, and it would have amplified the potential impact of the project. The evaluation found that the project had a few untapped potentials. The use of social media to spread the message was a clear example. There are still doubts among the project team about Save the Children's global ability to support them on this, while CNA Foundation in Brazil was unclear about a global communications strategy for the partnership as a whole. Besides that, the team had not identified and calculated the match funding they are receiving from the municipality. This could be a useful key performance indicator, or KPI. Lastly but not least, had the project focused on piloting and learning, it could have subcontracted part of the implementation so that the core team could think more and do less. As with nature, there are clouds in the sky that bring worries. In the case of this project, the evaluation found a few concerns. The fact that the piloting essence is not front of mind means not enough attention is given to the analysis of preliminary results. In other words, there is limited focus in understanding if more piloting needs to be done or if a scale-up model needs to be considered. There are plans to publish an Urban Resilience Project Guide. However, the research methodology, short time frame, and the lack of connection with the 4 other pilot countries under the Global Humanitarian Partnership cast doubts about the robustness of the evidence to support such a guide. There are no guarantees either that it won't be shelved. Equally, there are outstanding questions over the plans to integrate 2 of Save the Children's manuals into the school curriculum. The manuals produced by Save the Children USA were simply translated rather than customized, and there was not deep analysis to identify if other existing manuals could be adopted instead. Overall, how to define and measure success of this pilot project is a concern. How to have meaningful key performance indicators that support the various individual inspiring stories. How to ensure that the project's success in just 10 schools and 10 communities is not measured by the capacity of the whole municipality to cope with the rain and mudslides that happen every year. But even in nature, storms come and storms go, and when the trees have strong enough roots, the trunks, they start to bear fruit. In the case of this project, the evaluation shows there are a number of small positive impacts coming out. There are various inspiring stories of beneficiaries. There is Clara, for instance, a small girl who calmed her father down after her mother collapsed. She knew basic first aid techniques and she knew the emergency services number. All very simple things, but that made a huge difference at the time for her and her family. There is also the story of Christina, a community leader, who only with this project realised she needs to have not only plans in place to evacuate her neighbours, but also to evacuate her elderly mother who lives alone in a community an hour away. She refurbished her mother's place to have safer escape routes and even installed a remote bell that calls the neighbours in case of emergency. Besides individual stories, the project revived the civil defence community group method that had been dormant due to lack of state funding. The pilot has the potential to influence public policy and bring the method back into practice. The team is working with the Health Secretary to integrate the Children's Emergency Family Planning Guide into public health agents' responsibilities. Ultimately, the pilot is demonstrating ways preparedness for disasters in urban schools and communities could be done. It contributes to raising awareness in the public sphere that preventing disasters is as important as dealing with their aftermath. The evaluation has found that caution has to be paid in this last part of the project to avoid some traps. In the light of so many individual inspiring stories, it could be easy to generalise. For instance, it is premature to conclude that the project leads to positive change in children's attitude towards life, based only on the many anecdotes of improved behaviour of the children that participate in the school steering committees. Without strong monitoring data behind these changes in behaviour, this conclusion does not stand up to scrutiny. In fact, when one of the children in the steering committee misbehaves, as children do, questions about the effectiveness of the project as a whole are already starting to emerge. Special attention is also needed to make sure that the children are not treated as adults. In the context of disadvantaged communities, it is quite normal for children to have responsibilities that replace adults, and by strengthening children's ability to cope with disasters and unintended consequences, that these children are treated even more as adults. Stories of children in this project knowing what to do in a moment of distress are common, so much so that one of the teachers sent 2 children in the project out of school to inform a fellow student's mother that her son had had a fit and fainted, and that she should come quickly to the school. Similarly, during a fire drill, students without individual supervision were directing the teachers themselves. Finally, special arrangements will need to be put in place to ensure the unique integration of the community groups and the school committees under the project's small grants will all be carried out in what little time is left to finish the project. So, has this project made a difference? Has funding from C&A Foundation borne fruit and changed people's lives in the disadvantaged communities for the better? Has the project met and aligned with C&A Foundation's overall global remit? Locally, in Petropolis, the project makes sense, and a few improvements would make it even better. For C&A Foundation and C&A, the evaluation demonstrates that the alignment between its global remit and the work delivered on the ground can diverge. That doesn't mean good work was not done on the ground, but it raises questions about how future projects can achieve much better alignment with the priorities of C&A Foundation and C&A.